The first time that I actually got to physically see Srila Prabhupada was in Los Angeles in 1969. And I had been picking lemons to get money to go to a Zen Buddhist monastery to be a monk outside Santa Barbara, California. And I saw a poster about coming to see a real spiritual master. So I went to the Santa Barbara temple. It was a very small temple right by the ocean. There was no one there, but by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, as soon as I walked in the temple, I immediately knew that this is what I had been searching for and praying for a long, long time. So I got a ride to go see Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles temple. It was on a Sunday. And there was an initiation going on. And what stands out in my recollection of Srila Prabhupada, that it was certainly a somber and grave occasion, and Srila Prabhupada was displaying that. But yet also, I could see there was just so much love and compassion that was emanating from Srila Prabhupada when he was initiating people. And you could see this spiritual bond forming, and immediately I thought, well, I want this. And I remember Srila Prabhupada, one person who would come up to get their beads, and Srila Prabhupada asked them to repeat the 4 regulated principles, as he always does. And as they said no intoxication, Srila Prabhupada laughed and he said, "And this means no more LSD?" And of course, I could also relate to that at the time, though I'd given up drugs. So that really struck me about Srila Prabhupada at that time, that there was such an intimate mood of spiritual love that was being reciprocated in Srila Prabhupada. You could see he was like a universal father sitting on the Vyasasana. So that was my first physical contact with Srila Prabhupada.
So some guest asked Prabhupada one night, some guest said, "Well, what about LSD? This gives you spiritual visions." So I could see right away it was a trap. He was trying to trap Prabhupada. Because the Prabhupada would say, "I never took it." He could say, "How do you know?" And the Prabhupada would say, "Well, I tried it, it doesn't work." He'd say, "Well, you say no intoxication, but you take intoxication." So I said, "Well, I wonder how he's going to answer this." And Prabhupada said, "I myself have never taken these things, but my disciples have all given them up." So that took care of that.
This was in the Los Angeles temple. He was seen during a very ecstatic kirtan laughing. And after the kirtan was over, the devotees asked why he had been laughing. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, he was laughing at Narada Muni." And the devotee said, "What, Narada Muni?" "Yes, Narada Muni was there." "Oh, what was Narada Muni doing?" He said, "He was laughing." They said, "Why was he laughing?" "He was laughing at all the mlechas and chandalas dancing and chanting Hare Krishna."
Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, he was still working on it. So we would read the Bhagavad Gita by Dr. Radha Krishnan, who was former president of India, and Swami Nikhilananda, who was in disciplic succession from Ramakrishna. And Prabhupada would always say that Dr. Radha Krishnan was an impersonalist. But we didn't know what was an impersonalist. We didn't really know. And then one morning, Prabhupada said, "Today I will show you that Dr. Radha Krishnan is an impersonalist." And he had Roy read chapter 9, verse 34, "Always think of me, become my devotee." And he said, "Now read the commentary." And Roy read, "When Krishna says unto me, it is not to Krishna whom we should surrender, but to the unborn eternal within Krishna." And Prabhupada said, "You see, that proves that he's an impersonalist." Nobody understood. You know, sounded okay to me, sounded okay to everybody else except Prabhupada. And suddenly Kirtanananda started to speak. Kirtanananda said, "He's right." And he went on this long speech about how it's really the unborn eternal within Krishna. And while he was talking, Prabhupada started to turn red. And I mean really red. I was thinking, this is the first time in my life I understand what it means when they say somebody turned red. I had never seen anybody turn so red. And Prabhupada just sat there getting redder and redder as Kirtanananda spoke. And then suddenly Kirtanananda stopped, and Prabhupada said, "Are you finished?" And he said, "No." And he went ahead and started again, you know. And then finally he stopped, and Prabhupada said, "Are you finished?" And he said, "Yes." And Prabhupada asked him a question, but I don't remember the question. And then suddenly Prabhupada stood up and he slammed his hand down real hard. And he said, then why do you want to take it away from Krishna? It's Krishna, it's Krishna. It's no one born within Krishna. It's Krishna, it's Krishna. And I looked and I had never seen anything so magnificent. I thought, he is roaring like a lion. He was just like a lion roaring, you know. I could just almost feel the room shake. I thought it was so magnificent. I wish I could describe it, to see that, you know. And then we understood. So Prabhupada saved us on that day.
Srila Prabhupada, of course, you know, Prabhupada was naming everyone and explaining the name. And then I came last, and he said, Lenny? And then Srila Prabhupada started laughing. And he said, oh, you have such a nice name. And then he said, your name is Narada Muni. And in those days, in the early days, Narada Muni was, I think, more prominent than he is now. Because he was a transcendental spaceman, and I think we were so spaced out that everyone related with Narada Muni. So he was very popular amongst the devotees, and everyone really was waiting, who's going to get the name Narada Muni? No one had gotten that name yet. And Srila Prabhupada also found it humorous, probably, that he gave that name to me. But when he said Narada Muni, everybody was oohing and eyeing and laughing, and Srila Prabhupada was laughing. This tape is there. It's the 10 offenses tape. Srila Prabhupada so nicely explains the 10 offenses. And he says some very profound things about initiation too. He explains, you know, the offense of thinking that chanting Hare Krishna is like mundane religion. And Srila Prabhupada explains how you can get material benefit by mundane religion. But Krishna consciousness is beyond all religion. And Srila Prabhupada said, it's like from this ceremony, you can go back to Godhead. So that's the importance of getting connected with Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada said, after he gave me my name, and he laughed, and he said, so Narada Muni travels all throughout space. He said, so you should do like this, and with chanting Hare Krishna and your veena, you can do. Now that's on tape. I don't know what Srila Prabhupada meant, but so Srila Prabhupada always had such a transcendental vision of all of us, you know, seeing something that we can't see in ourselves. And that's what's so beautiful about Srila Prabhupada. He could bring that out in all of us, you know, our spiritual essence.
So there was some talk about an initiation. And some of the guys were already bowing, but I didn't bow. I remember Hari Guru said to me, I don't like this bowing. I said, me neither, you know, it was too foreign, you know. So Prabhupada, so Roy came up to me and he said, well, I said, hey, Wally, you want to get initiated? And I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And he said, well, none of us are, but we're going to do it anyway. So, okay, me too. So he put my name down on the list. And we asked Prabhupada, what is initiation? And Prabhupada said, I'll tell you later. So the day before the initiation, after the morning class, he said, now I will tell you what initiation means. Initiation means that the spiritual master accepts the disciple and agrees to take charge of his welfare, and the disciple accepts the spiritual master and agrees to worship him as God. And he got up and walked out of the room. And we just sat there looking at each other. You know, I remember thinking, if the hydrogen bomb had just gone off in this room, we could not be more stunned, you know. To worship him as God, that was just inconceivable, and especially what Prabhupada said about people who want to be God, you know. And then Janaki, who was Mother Jandan, it was Mukunda Maharaja's wife at the time. He had her string the beads, right? He said, women are good at this kind of work, you know. He said they have the patience to do it. So then we all had our beads, and we came up there for the initiation, and we tied the neck beads on. And I said, well, how do you get these off? And somebody said, you don't. Right? And then Prabhupada would pick up the beads one by one and say, whose are these? So when he picked up my beads, I said, those are mine, and he motioned for me to come, and he motioned for me to bow down, and I couldn't get away from it anymore, so I had to bow down. And then I repeated what he said. I assume I offered obeisances. I don't know. I just repeated what he said. And then he gave me my beads and he said my name was Umapati. And I understood it as meaning the husband of the goddess of fortune. So for a while I thought it was a name for Vishnu. But that must not be what he actually said, because it's a name for Lord Shiva. And then I remember I went and I sat next to Hayagriva, and I said, getting your beads is great, because he hadn't gotten his yet. And then Prabhupada had us all touch our beads to the feet of Lord Chaitanya on the Panchatattva picture. And then he started the fire. And as the fire, as pouring ghee on the fire, the room was filled with smoke. It was pouring out the windows. And I was thinking, any second the fire department's going to come, and they're not going to believe what they see here. And I found out later everybody in the room had the same thought, And then we all went home and left Prabhupada to clean it up. I don't think anybody even thought of cleaning it up,